Sunday, and time for another episode of Record Collecting with a Quill. For this week's episode, we will talk about Bob Dylan, and especially Bob Dylan cover tracks. There's a bunch of them really famous. You have Jimi Hendrix doing All Along the Watchtower. You have Rolling Stones doing Like a Rolling Stone. And you have the Byrds doing Mr. Tambourine Man. And I wouldn't say I collect cover versions, but whenever I buy an album and find a Bob Dylan track, I sort of make a mental note of it. I think it's kind of cool. There's some really interesting versions compared to how they sounded when Bob recorded them. And I also have a Spotify playlist where, I don't know, it's a bunch of different tracks. Whenever I stumble on something that I think is cool, I save them there and listen to it and enjoy them. So before we start, be sure to click the subscribe button and that little notice bell as well, and share with your friends. If you have friends that you think would maybe enjoy this, share with them. Sharing is caring, as they say. So let's start. The first Bob Dylan track I ever heard as a child, I wasn't aware of it being a Bob Dylan song, and it's actually one of my favorites. It's a cover version of the song "The Mighty Quinn" by Manfred Mann. Bob recorded it in the late 60s, but it remained unreleased till the 70s, and recorded it with a band, and it was released as Quinn the Eskimo. But Manfred Mann somehow got a hold of it and recorded it in the late 60s and had a huge hit with it. It became #1. And I heard it as a child. My father had it on a cassette, I think, in our car as a child, and I remember just wanting to hear that song over and over again. So it's one of those tracks you have in your blood system. It's with you, and I really enjoy this. This is a later compilation, I think, from the 80s, but they had some really good, strong singles. Manfred Mann in the 60s. They became a little bit more progressive during the 70s and changed their name as well to Manfred Mann's Earth Band. That had a huge hit with also a cover track of Bruce Springsteen, "Blinded by the Light." But that's the first one I ever heard, "The Mighty Quinn," and I still think it holds up really good today. Strong track, great harmonies, and a great melody as well, and a kind of a fun production as well. So, Manfred Mann, first pick. Second one, "All Along the Watchtower." As I said, it's really famous, and I think actually Bob's version is really cool, and John and Wesley Harding, and the most famous version, of course, being the Jimi Hendrix version. But I picked this one instead, by Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush, from the album Tales of the Unexpected. This version, it borrows quite a lot, of course, from Jimmy's version, but it also adds another dimension to it. Frank he had a jazzy feel to his playing as well, and this is kind of a forgotten group from the late 70s and early 80s that was really, really good. He recorded sometimes under his own name and sometimes under Mahogany Rush, but there's some great guitar playing on this one, and the version of "All Along the Watchtower is really good as well. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. The next one is a surprise. I had this album for quite many years, Nazareth, Loud and Proud, and this album ends with a super heavy version of the Ballad of Hollis Brown, and it's I would say it's almost doom in a way, and it was kind of ahead of its time, I would say, as well. Nazareth is also one of those groups that they were huge in the 70s, most famous for the hit "Love Hurts," and it's quite far from listening to the Ballad of Hollis Brown. It's like I think it's over 8 minutes. This version, really, really heavy and sort of doomy, slow. It's driven by the bass actually, so you gotta love that. Check it out. I know Entombed made a really heavy version as well, but in a totally different way. This is slow, heavy, almost, as I said, doom rock. Really cool. Check that one out as well. Next, think I will show some CDs. This one, North Mississippi Allstars, Keys to the Kingdom. I became aware of North Mississippi Allstars when the guitarist Luther Dickinson joined Black Crowes, one of my favorite bands, in 2007, I believe, and went back and listened to the records, and this is really, really cool stuff. It's what I like about it is it has one leg in the old tradition, Delta blues, and does a really good interpretation of that type of music. But they also have a contemporary leg as well, sound-wise, and they add different production stuff that makes it interesting in a way. They mix the old stuff with the new stuff. And on this album, they cover Stuck Inside a Mobile with a Memphis Blues again in a really good version. And I also enjoy, apart from Luther's guitar playing, the vocals are really cool as well. This is a little nice fold-out CD. This is when they were a three-piece. I think they're only a two-piece now. It's Luther and his brother. Cool one. North Mississippi Allstars. Check it out. Next one is this. It's made in Sweden, Snakes in a Hole. This is a Swedish supergroup actually from the late 60s and early 70s, consisting, most famous member being Jojje Wadenius, a famous Swedish guitarist who started out in Sweden, then went over to America and became a famous session player, playing with Blood, Sweat and Tears and Steely Dan, and he was part of the Saturday Night Live band for quite some time as well. This one is an interesting one, being that it's an instrumental track. It's Lay Lady Lay in an instrumental version, and it shows that Bob Songs works without the lyrics. It's kind of a jazzy album, I would say, some mix between jazz and progressive, and it's maybe not party music, but it's a perfect album for slow Sundays at home when you're walking around doing nothing. And he has a really jazzy feel to his guitar playing, Jojje. So kind of difficult to find on vinyl, but it's available on Spotify and I think on CD as well. So check that one out. This really cool hippie cover as well. A lot of weird paintings and stuff. Made in Sweden. They're doing Lay Lady Lay. And my last pick, CD, Rage Against the Machine. On this one they're doing Maggie's Farm in a really good version. It's groovy, it's heavy, and I wonder what Bob Dylan would have thought of this when he wrote it, and if he would have been able to hear it, what these guys would do with his song 40 years later or so. But I really enjoy this one. I think actually this is kind of a forgotten Rage Against the Machine album, their last one. Some really good cover tracks on this one. The Ghost of Tom Joad as well, the Bruce Springsteen track is really good. But Maggie's Farm, it's the last track on the album, and I also like the way Zach, the singer, just spit out the lyrics with so much conviction as only he can, and so it makes it for an interesting version compared to the Bob Dylan version. It's more of a I would say a blues number, but here it's heavy as heavy as possible. So check that one out as well. That's my last pick for this Bob Dylan cover version episode, Maggie's Farm by Rage Against the Machine. Of course, there's tons of other versions. I had a short list, I think, of over 40 songs, but in order to keep this episode around 10 minutes, I think we will end it for there now. And maybe I'll do another episode just as I did with live albums, that I will do a part 2 or yeah, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. You can do a lot of episodes, but this was some cool versions that I thought you might enjoy, and in different styles of music as well. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoy it. As usual, I put the songs I mentioned here on the Spotify playlist that you can find the link below. And what I'll do this time is I will put two versions, the Bob Dylan original version and the cover version, so you can listen to both of them and see which one you like the most. Also, be sure to check out our social media, the QUILL Sweden, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also check out the new album, Earthrise. It came out Friday, and I gotta say thank you to all of those who bought it, and everyone who connected with us. It seems like people really do enjoy it, which we're really happy with. So, and if you haven't checked it out, please do. I will put some links to the videos by the end of this video as well, so you can watch them. We have Keep On Moving, Hallucinate, and Dwarf Planet out now, and the album is available both for streaming, vinyl, and CD as well. But that's it for now. See you all next Sunday. As usual, I have no idea. I have a whole week to think about it and what we will do, but hopefully it will be something interesting. Anyway, cheers for now, and enjoy your week. See you next Sunday. Cheers.